Hi everyone, my name is Zach, and in this video we take a look at the mask and hide option Blender Sculpt mode offers. So in the last video I already showed you the mask brush, and this is one of the important tools we can use. Masking and hiding basically allows us to protect some areas, or on the other hand hide areas so that they aren't in the way anymore, and we can sculpt in areas which are hard to see. Here I have a sculpting of an arm I created during Sculpt January 2017, and on this object we will experiment with masking and hiding because we have this hand with the fingers lying pretty close to each other and so on. And for masking we on the one hand need this mask brush, and on the other hand you find all the mask and hide option down here. Up here this is all about masking, and down here it's about hiding. And in addition to that you will also find all the mask and hide shortcuts in the Blender Sculpting cheat sheet, which you can find in the project files of this course. Alright, now let's start with the standard mask brush. We can, for example, just mask one specific area which we don't want to sculpt on anymore. Basically we want to protect the details I've sculpted here, and if I sculpt now using any other brush, you can see this area will not be affected anymore. To delete a mask you either can choose a subtract option, that means simply hold down Ctrl and paint the mask, or you can use one of these shortcuts down here, clear mask, as you can see, Alt M, press Alt M, and then the mask will be cleared. Then with the mask brush we have another option. There is this smooth option here. That means we can smooth the borders of this mask for a softer transition between mask and not masked area. Then in some cases, like you want to mask everything except some little spots here, you can do it in two ways. Either you click fill mask, then everything will be filled, and then you can remove these areas you don't want to be masked, like this. I hold down Ctrl so that subtract is enabled. Or if I clear the mask again, you simply paint your mask in these areas, and then with Ctrl I you can invert the mask. And now everything is masked except the spots here. And for example, if I now take the snake hook brush, make the curve more pointy, and then I pull out these areas here, you can see we can create these spikes. This is also useful for creating teeth or anything like this. Then I can shape them a bit, and in this way you can mask out areas and use this to only affect certain areas. This is also useful if you want to create something like an ear. Simply mask everything except the area you want to create the ear, and then using the snake hook brush, for example, you also can pull out geometry and start to create the ear or whatever you want to create. So you have a restricted area on which you can sculpt on, and you don't run into troubles accidentally changing the other geometry. These are ways to use the masks. So now I press Alt M to remove the mask. Now let's see what else we have down here. We have this lasso mask, Shift Control a left mouse button. So I think it doesn't matter what brush is enabled, so Shift Control left mouse button. You can see I can paint this lasso mask, but you can see it also affects the other side. So if you draw this mask on one side, and as you can see it's doing some weird stuff right now, but I don't know why. Yeah, and a third way to paint a mask is holding down B and paint a box mask. This can be useful for hard surface kind of things. So that's it with all the mask option we have: lasso mask, box mask, clear mask, fill mask, and invert the mask. And then we have this hide options. So one of the options is hide mask. That means all the things that are painted in black will be hided. If I click on that, you can see it pretty well. That means basically the same, that we can't affect this anymore, but in addition to that, we don't see the faces, and that's useful because in some cases, some of the faces are in the way. And another way to hide this is pressing H and paint this box. And you can do it again and again and again. And if you press Alt H, you can unhide everything. Or if you press Shift H, you can only unhide the things inside the box. So I press Alt and H and Alt and M to remove all the masks and hiding. And now I show you why this is useful and important. For example, if I want to edit this finger here, and maybe I want to change the shape a bit, like moving this around, and you can see it also affects the other finger, and I don't want that. And in this case, it's useful to use this mask. So I press H and try to hide this finger as good as possible. So now I've hided the complete finger, and now I can sculpt on this finger without any problems, do some changes, and also I can use a snake hook brush to change the shape of this finger, for example. On this side, if I want to edit the other side, I have to hide this finger as well. And if you accidentally hide a part of this finger here, you can press Shift H and then show this. And then I can also change this side here. And now we have this ugly finger, and with Alt H we can show the other fingers, and you will see we didn't change these fingers. On the edges sometimes you can see slightly changes can happen, then simply smooth this using the smooth brush. Also down here you can smooth this. Now we have this ugly finger and spikes on the hand, typical elements every hand should have. So these are basically the mask and hide option we have, but there's one other general option we also can use in Sculpt mode. That means you can use this in every mode basically, and that's the clipping border. You can enable it by pressing Alt B, and then you can draw a border over your hand, for example, and now you can see everything else is hidden except the things which are inside this border. And imagine that this hand or this arm is on a character, and if I want to sculpt on the hand and the character is in the background, it can happen that I accidentally paint on the character or sculpt on the character, and either you mask everything except the hand, but it's much faster simply pressing Alt B, select the hand, sculpt the things you want to sculpt, and then press Alt B again to remove this clipping border. Yeah, and that's the ways we can use hiding and masking for Blender Sculpt mode.